Happy February 8th, JLD here, and welcome to Strategy Today. In this show, we talk about Blackrock owning more than 5% of Strategy, more than 5% of MSTR. Does Larry Fink, does Blackrock know something that other people don't know? I think so too. We talk about a realistic outlook when it comes to strategy, a realistic one, and Chris brings that to us. We talk about the 7 insights of Bitcoin. And these insights were acquired from over 100 interviews. So, very interesting stuff here. I have 2 unbelievable Michael Saylor clips about digital money, about digital property. You don't want to miss it. And then, of course, it's Saturday, so I show you the update of my DCA tracker, my $210 investment every trading day of 2025. That update is coming and more. So remember, this is not financial advice, and please comment below. Let me know where you're watching from. Like, share this video. I so appreciate it. And let's dive on in. So the first thing we're talking about today is BlackRock increases ownership of Strategy, previously MicroStrategy, to over 5%. 11.2 million shares is what they currently own right here. So BlackRock's filing marked a 0.91% increase in MSTR holdings during Q4 2024. It was up from 4%. So obviously they did this. Why? Because Strategy delivered 540% stock returns over the past year, and it has a targeted 10 billion in Bitcoin gains by 2025. I would want to be investing 11.2 million shares if I could as well. So congratulations to BlackRock for doing just that and having approximately 11.2 million shares of MSTR. Good job, Larry. Let's talk about a post from Michael Saylor. We all need a little strategy for success. Michael Saylor saying we all need a strategy for success. I just love how Michael is embracing the new logo, the new colors, the new name. I hope everybody else is as well, because this is a brand shift looking towards the future. MicroStrategy was the past. 1989, it was launched. Here we are, 2025, looking to the future. Bitcoin colors, strategy with a Bitcoin B. Let's go. I love it. Okay, here's a post from Chris that I wanted to share. A lot of you need a reality check, and it's partly not your fault. People have been feeding you with hopium and calling for daily God candles, parabolic moves, and 20 PE this and 30 PE that, and they have totally effed and distorted your short-term expectations. The market is not currently pricing strategy on becoming a Bitcoin bank. The market is currently pricing strategy on generating a Bitcoin yield. Bitcoin yield comes with diminishing returns. If we assume the strategy will acquire Saylor's target of 1 million BTC, double the current holdings, then at a 2x MNAV, it means the stock is trading exactly where it should be. Future Bitcoin price appreciation does not deserve a multiple. The last repricing was in October 2024 when the market began pricing in a Bitcoin yield. The next repricing event will be when the market begins pricing in a Bitcoin bank. Until then, don't expect God candles or parabolic moves or for the stock to be trading at 20 or 30 PE. And don't be surprised if the stock continues to trend towards tracking at a 2x MNAV with occasional overcorrections in both directions. If your time horizon is weeks or months, you're going to be disappointed. If your time horizon is years or decades, you're going to be rich. And if you're relying on speculation from uninformed investors to pump your bags, you're doing it wrong. Now, those of you who have been watching Strategy Today for a long time now know that most of my videos, not every single one of them, but most of them has at least one post from Chris, because this guy has done the research. He knows strategy. He knows MSTR. He understands Bitcoin at an incredibly deep level. And I'm talking incredibly deep level. If you haven't watched my complete history of MicroStrategy, which of course now I'll have to rebrand to a complete history of MicroStrategy and strategy. If you haven't watched that, I highly recommend it. But Chris was the main inspiration for that. He wrote and created this unbelievable document, which I referenced multiple times throughout the video and have linked up in the video show notes as well, of just an unbelievably deep, thought out, incredibly thought provoking thesis around MSTR, around strategy. So I always look to this individual. He gives great content, and he's giving you some great reality now that, hey, it is realistic to expect very great stuff in years and decades, but don't think in weeks or months when it comes to this stuff. That's basically the point that he's making, which I agree with. Wanted to share this post from Bram. I thought it was fantastic. Over the past year, I've interviewed 100 people about Bitcoin. What I've learned goes beyond price action. Bitcoin is reshaping how people think about money, freedom, and even life itself. Here are the 7 biggest insights from these conversations. 1, Bitcoin changes you first. People who go deep into Bitcoin experience a shift in mindsets. They move from short-term thinking to long-term planning. They stop chasing consumerism and start focusing on self-sufficiency. So true. 2, Bitcoin is a mind virus. Once you understand Bitcoin's principles, absolute scarcity, decentralization, self-sovereignty, you can't unsee it. It rewires how you view the financial system. Many guests described going from skeptical to obsessed almost overnight. True. 3, Bitcoin exposes the flaws in the fiat money system. Governments print money endlessly, diluting your savings. Bitcoin flips this. Its supply is capped at 21 million coins. Fiat money is based on trust. Bitcoin is based on math. Which do you think is more reliable? 4, Bitcoin changes how you consume. Before Bitcoin, many guests admitted they bought things impulsively. After Bitcoin, they stopped wasting money on junk and started prioritizing saving. Bitcoiners often talk about stacking sats instead of buying things they don't need. And by the way, this was me totally. Like, I am now analyzing every purchase like I never did before. Because before I was like, well, I'll buy it now because my money's becoming less valuable. Like, I knew that because of inflation. So I'll have that thing. But now I'm like, if I buy that thing, that's money that would otherwise I could put into something like Bitcoin or MSTR that I truly believe is always going to be going up in value against the dollar. 5, Bitcoin isn't just money, it's a worldview. Many people describe Bitcoin as more than a financial tool. It's a movement towards decentralization, fairness, and self-sovereignty. Quote, being in Bitcoin feels like being part of a parallel world, one that actually makes sense. End quote. 6, Bitcoin gives you true ownership. Most people think the money in their bank is theirs. It's not. Banks can freeze accounts, limit withdrawals, or fail entirely. Bitcoin lets you hold your own wealth outside the system. It gives you a way out of third-party control. 7, learning Bitcoin requires an ego death. Bitcoin forces you to question everything you thought you knew about money. Many guests said it was humbling to realize how little they understood. It's a financial awakening that forces deep self-reflection. And then as this sum up, he says, Bitcoin is not just superior money. It's a mindset shift. It's a challenge to the status quo, and it's a gateway to long-term thinking. If you're still on the fence about Bitcoin, ask yourself, what if everything I was taught about money is wrong? Then I wanted to share this from Chris. He always has a great graphic. A $1,200 stimulus check invested in MSTR is now worth $26,520. So back in 20th of August in 2020, if you had put that $1,200 stimulus check into MSTR, this is what you'd be sitting on. And again, don't be thinking in weeks and months. Be thinking in years and decades. Now I have a great video from Michael Saylor all about digital property, digital money. Michael, take it away.
Bitcoin is magical, and it is truly the innovation. It's like a singularity because it represents the first time in the history of the human race that we managed to create a digital property properly understood. It's easy to create something digital, right? Every coupon and every scan on Fortnite and Roblox and Apple TV credits and all these things, they're all digital something, but they're securities, right? Shares of stock are securities. Whenever anybody transfers, when you transfer money on PayPal or Apple Pay, you're transferring in essence a security or an IOU. Mm-hmm. And so transferring a bearer instrument with final settlement in the internet domain or in cyberspace, that's a critical thing. And anybody in the crypto world can do that. All the cryptos can do that. But what they can't do, what 99% of them fail to do, is be property. They're securities. But what did Satoshi do? Satoshi figured out how to manifest something of value in cyberspace forever and transfer it without the intermediary. So what does that really mean? If you can put $1 of value in cyberspace, you can put $1 billion of value into cyberspace. And if you put $1 billion, you can put $1 trillion. And in the last 15 years, we put 1.3 trillion. Well, there's $900 trillion of traditional wealth in the world. we have opened a portal. Satoshi opened a portal, a technique, and we started seeing economic energy moving from the analog world and the traditional world, the physical world, the analog world, into the digital world, to a pure digital representation. And that's like putting payloads in orbit, right? I put a satellite in orbit and it circles the Earth forever. I put a satellite almost in orbit. How long can you fly? Oh, 15 hours. And then your plane crashes. So almost in orbit is 15 hours. And in orbit is 15 billion years, as far as we know, right? So there's a pretty big difference between putting something in outer space versus putting it in space. And there's a big difference between putting something in cyberspace versus leaving it in real space. JP Morgan said he said gold is money, everything else is credit. What he meant was, if I hand a bar of gold to you that's worth $1 million, you have $1 million of gold. But if I hand you a check that has $1 million written on it, you have an IOU. And if you go to the bank to cash the check, there may not be any money in the bank. You may not get your $1 million. But if you have the gold, you have the gold. The gold is the bearer instrument. It is the object. The check is monetary information. The gold is monetary energy. One of them is conservative. I gave you the gold bar. I don't have the gold bar. The check I wrote to you for $1 million, and you walked out of the room, so I wrote him $1 million check. And then I wrote him $1 million check. And then I wrote another $1 million check. And now I'm a banker. I wrote $10 million of checks. I only have $1 million. I asked for 5% interest in each one. I maybe make myself $500,000 a year in interest off of money that doesn't exist. And I maintain, that's called fractional reserve banking. And I maintain, that illusion as long as I can. And when the illusion finally comes crashing to earth, right, all of my creditors are bankrupted, right? And the economy collapses. So Satoshi finds a way to put money in cyberspace. Bitcoin is money.
And there you have it, another episode of Strategy Today. And remember, this is not financial advice. And please, if you got value from today's video and you haven't already, comment below. That's your gift back to me. Let me know where you're watching from, if you're sipping a cup of coffee, if it's nighttime where you are, if you're on a walk with your dog, whatever it might be, comment below. I love your interactions. I interact with all of them. So thank you so much. Appreciate the likes and the shares. And I've got the DCA update for the week. Every Saturday, I'm going to go through exactly where I'm sitting at with my daily dollar cost average of $210 every trading day of 2025. As you can see, I'll scroll down here. This is the start. The first trading day was January 2nd, all the way up till February 7th, which was Friday. So right now, I currently have 15.58 shares, dollar cost averaging at $210 a day. My average cost per share is $344. The market value is $5,103. So my total gain, which is unrealized because I haven't sold it, is negative 5%. And my total gain in dollar terms is negative $269. So almost a $270 loss thus far. So we'll see what happens over this next month, over this next year, and I will keep you updated on that. And remember, there is no second best.
What's the second best? There is no second best.